China has arrived as an economic powerhouse on par with the Americans. The Fortune 500 list has proven that. But what about the military? Because combined with that, China can officially succeed the US as the most powerful nation in the world. It's work in progress, we can tell you, and it's being done pretty fast. China is on a long-drawn, ambitious military modernization drive, and here is proof. The Chinese government has increased its defense spending by a whopping 1,459%. That's correct, 1,459%. This data is part of a white paper released by the Chinese government. This is rather unusual because China is extremely secretive of its military matters. The paper was titled China's National Defense in the New Era, and it said that in 5 years, from 2012 to 2017, they've grown from more than 660 billion yuan to more than 10,400 billion yuan. That's a growth of nearly 9.5% every year. Around 9% GDP growth was also clocked at the same time. Now, despite all of this, China claims its defense expenditure remains reasonable and appropriate. The white paper says it is the lowest among the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. From 2012 to 2017, China's national defense expenditure accounted for an average of 1.3% of the GDP. America's was about 3.5%, while Russia was the highest at more than about 4.5%. In the same time period, India's spend was around 2.5% of the GDP. And not just that, the ratio of China's defense spending to the total government spending was 5.3% in those years. That was less than half of that of Russia, which was a little more than 12%, and significantly less than that of America, 9.8%. Interestingly, this report also had a direct reference about India. The Chinese White Paper on Defense spoke about the border confrontations between China and India in Doklam. Seeking to strengthen India-China ties, it spoke about effective measures to be taken for peaceful settlements. It's important to remember here that all of China's borders are a battleground, not to mention autonomous or wayward provinces. If Hong Kong is boiling over, Taiwan is simmering with discontent, and the Chinese government has consistently given this as the justification, as the only major country yet to be completely reunified, and that too with the most complex peripheral security environment. China faces serious challenges in safeguarding national sovereignty. And so, in the past 2 decades, China's government has been busy building a world-class fighting force, which has meant that the Chinese defense industry has grown rapidly, and that too with a handful of homegrown firms which are displacing Western defense powerhouses. Let me give you an example. Last year, not a single Chinese company had even cracked the world's top 100 defense firms. This year, 6 Chinese firms are among the world's top 15, not top 100. 8 of them are in the top 25. That's how fast they've grown. So far, the US has to spend its way to victory in the strategic competition of arms. That's because no country came close to having more than 40% of its GDP. But now things have changed, and how? China's GDP is currently around 63% of that of the US, and it is in cruise control mode to become the world's largest economy eventually. The US is only too aware of this because the Pentagon released a report this year on China's military might, where even the US Department of Defense has admitted that China is on the verge of fielding some of the most modern weapon systems in the world. Watch this space for the very latest on that.